Thank you for having me. My name is Airian Renay. I'm from Ponca City, Oklahoma. I came to Dallas about 4.5 years ago to start on a new venture, to start a youth organization and some businesses. And so I've been here just navigating new challenges, navigating just the change of everything and doing my best to like just be an influence in the city. Um, I came about 4.5 years ago, but I've been here like just off and on. I was back home for a little bit and then also traveling a little bit. But I chose Dallas because I first came to the city in 2018 for some training, some work training. And when I was down here, I really felt that there was a need for a youth programs down here. And I really felt just a burden for the city to where I felt like I could come down here and make a difference and do something that was very impactful in a place that needed it. So in 2019, I decided that Dallas was the place that I would come to just start navigating, trying to make an influence in this world. So it started really early on because I initially wasn't trying to like get involved in any type of like community work or youth work. But from the age of like 8 years old, I'd actually always wanted to be a nurse. So it's kind of interesting how I ended up where I am today. Because if you'd asked me like 20 years ago what I wanted to be, I remember it was like, okay, I want to be a nurse, I want to go into healthcare, but I always wanted to help people. And so it's still all kind of connected. But when I was 17 years old, I gave up going to a university and pursuing a degree in nursing. And I decided to move out of state and go to a Bible school. And there, I didn't know really what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to give God my first fruits. And so for me, that was like, okay, God, like, I'm going to give you this time right here. I'm going to forget all the plans that I made for myself and focus on like where it is that you want me to go. And so I ended up studying youth ministry because I had to pick something and I didn't know. I was like, okay, well, I'm young, maybe youth ministry. And so I started studying youth ministry, and then from there, behavioral ministry. And then that kind of segued into just like behavioral studies and psychology. And I did that because I was working with youth, and a lot of people in that career field, they had like degrees and they were studying psychology. And I was like, okay, maybe that's what I need to do. All I knew is that like from the age of 17 to 21, like those 4 years, God was completely kind of like rewriting my story. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know if I was ever going to go back to nursing or do something else. I just knew that I was like just trying to walk in whatever path like God paved for me. And so that's kind of how I ended up getting involved in like just youth ministry and outreach and everything. It just stemmed from me just making that one simple decision at 17 years old that I'm going to just trust God and see where it takes me. So I would say definitely like my faith plays a huge role in everything, because anything that I do, if I do it for myself, it could fail, I could get discouraged and it's like, oh, that's the end of it. But if I'm doing it knowing there's like a bigger purpose beyond me, because like God, he has this whole big picture, that's what keeps me going. If I was just, depending on myself or just trying to do things for reasons that really don't bring glory to God, I feel like I would have gave up a long time ago. And so like with Outshining the Darkness, when I started that like youth organization, I was thinking of like just the principles and core values that I wanted to center it around. And like 1 Timothy 4:12 was something that came to my mind, where it says, don't despise those that are young, but be a good example to believers. And I was like, okay, how do we do that? And in the scripture it says through faith, through conduct, through speech, through charity, and all those different things. And so that's what I was just kind of like centering it all around. It's like, if we can do these things, we can really outshine the darkness, because we know that there's, no place that like God can't touch if we actually go out there, but we have to be his hands and his feet. So who's like willing to go? And so for me, that was what I was just trying to like just go. And of course, like there was a lot of, still like opposition, because people like, they don't know you, they don't understand who you are. And then you also have like the expectations of society, the expectations of, maybe church members or your family members. Like they're like, okay, you gotta do this, or be this way like everyone else, and this is the path you go down. And it's like, that doesn't feel like where God is leading me. So you really do have to like trust God, because you may not always get that push and that support, but if you can like center what you're doing or on the word of God, then it's not going to lead you astray. I actually came to Dallas like within 6 months of the pandemic happening. So what led up to that was I was involved in a lot of youth programs like youth centers, group homes, public schools, local programs like Boys and Girls Clubs and stuff like that. So any chance I got, whatever city I was in, like I made sure that I found, okay, where can I go to like help the young people that are in need? Where can I go to make an impact in the community? So I was actually like learning from all the places I worked at. Like I was learning how they ran things. I was learning what were the needs of the kids. Like I was just learning how to just operate kind of in that atmosphere. So I came to Dallas at the end of 2019, and I was working on getting youth programs made so that I can like start going to public schools, start going to youth centers. Like I didn't want to be limited. Like I just had like a really big vision and I was excited. So within 6 months, the pandemic hit and it actually like paused everything. And that I got wrapped, like my whole identity was like wrapped up in that with like being in Dallas. So for me, I had to like take time to really reevaluate where I was and just figure out like, okay, God, like I know you're still gonna finish what you started, but now there's probably a different need or a different way that I can reach these young people. And so the pandemic, like it put a pause on things, but it also allowed me to grow as an individual because if I'm where I need to be with God, then I know that like I can help people get to where, they need to be. And so I was really took that time to like focus on like really what it is that I'm capable in the city because I just jumped right into it. And so the pandemic allowed me to like pause and just kind of, I guess, explore different things of how I can like reach the city.
How do you envision using storytelling to create a lasting impact and inspire change?
Yeah, that's a great question because as I mentioned earlier, you asked a question about like how the pandemic affected that. So during the pandemic, the best thing that came out of that for me was that because I had to put a pause on like going out into the community, I couldn't go into schools, couldn't go into youth centers, I couldn't find a job to where I could go and be involved in the community. So I had to learn how to um, be influential and do what God has called me to do, but like maybe not in person. And at the time during the pandemic, I think you would probably recall like things are going viral, everyone was on social media because everyone's at home. So there was just like, I feel like the usage of just like media and our phones, it just increased drastically. So for me, I got into the filming probably 2021, it's like a year after. And during that time, like it's kind of like when I first got into like doing youth ministry stuff, I was like, I don't know, like, where this is gonna take me. But the difference with that is that like I did feel kind of like a spark in me. And it was like a passion that was like dormant in me because I ended up having all these stories and things that God had given me like years prior, like back in 2014, 2015, and I didn't know what I was going to do with those things. I just remember like I put notes in my phone, and I thank God for the cloud because like I would have lost all that if it had been on paper. But I remember going through my phone, I was like, man, this is from years ago, and I was like, I didn't know how He was going to use it. So when I got into film, I was like, this is gonna come to life right here. And so I started writing, and I didn't think I would work with youth doing film. Actually, if I'm gonna be honest with you, I was kind of not against it, but I wasn't too like fond of like um, young people in like the industry, just because film can be very complex. And so I was just like, I didn't think I'd ever work with youth in the film industry. So my first two films I produced, I worked with kids. And it was then when I saw like, just how talented, how hungry they were to like make a difference and to use their talents. And I was like, okay, how can I show them how you can use these gifts for God, and that like those things that are innate in them, that God gave them those things. And it was so amazing because those are some of the, like just the most memorable experiences that I had. And I got to work with grade school age kids and then also high school age kids. And it was just like, absolutely loved it. It was a great atmosphere, and that right there opened up my eyes where I was like, okay, I may not be able to reach as many people face to face, but if I can put something into cinema that God gives me, like I can reach anyone. There's like no limits to who I can reach or how many people I can reach. So film really opened my eyes to new ways of allowing God to use me to just like, be a voice and to the voiceless, and also to like share what He's given me. So that was very, I don't know, it was very fun to navigate, also very different because I had no experience. And so, but just trusting God, like I did, like, okay, like whatever you call me to do, if I don't have experience, I don't have the knowledge of it, you're gonna lead me and equip me as I go along. So
Yes.
so for me, like post-pandemic, I'm learning that it's a different time than it was before 2020. So I'm just learning that the needs that there were before are different. Like this younger generation, they're going through things that, we didn't have to go through like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And the world is changing so quickly that I'm learning, okay, like I need to really be able to connect with young people on a new level because I don't have what they need. God has what they need. So I have to understand, like, okay, God, like, what is your mission for me now? And so I'm just really learning how to like really find real people and like minister on a real level because there are people that are out there going through real life things, homelessness, financial crisis, abuse, like all types of things. So I'm learning, like, okay, how can I now use Outshine the Darkness to meet real people where they're at, or to tell real life stories through my films, or to do programs that really can pull people out of just that slump that they're in, because I feel like everyone's still trying to crawl out of it, and so it's caused me to really just like reevaluate and like focus on like exactly like what it is that God is wanting me to do in this season now, because it's very different than it was like 4 years ago. It's more urgent now, I feel, but I'm still like searching like what is that, and just being present with people and not like not cutting off my relationships, and like making sure that like my heart is still open to people, because that is the most important thing, because that's the closest thing to God's heart is people. So I have to make sure that that is my focus.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it comes to a point also when post COVID, everything went to social media, everything became online. Would you say that was a challenge that you was willing to accept, or was it something that you really had to adapt to, opposed to, because you, to me, you seem like a person that loves face-to-face interaction, you love being
Yeah.
present. Was that a challenge to adapt to more social media platforms to reach with the same message?
Yes, it was, because I am kind of old school. Like I prefer like face-to-face conversations. Um, I'm like I'm not in my 20s anymore, so I wasn't on like all the like new apps and stuff. And I had actually taken like a social media break in 2018. And when the pandemic happened, I had like my media was on pause. But then I realized, okay, I got to get back on media now. And so I actually got back on it like during I think it was 2021. So I got back on it during the pandemic, and I did have to adapt definitely. And so, but I realized like I need to adapt to this because I don't want to lose touch with society. I don't want to lose touch with the younger generation. And in the past, like when I first started working with youth, that was something that God had used because I was like young starting off. I was able to like relate and empathize with the kids, and I really cared because I understood that some of the things they were going through. So I didn't want to lose that. So I was like, okay, you need to know what's going on in the world, because whatever is going on outside in the world is affecting these kids somehow, like even just it's something that may not be direct, it may be indirect. If something happens in the economy, that may affect their household, so I had to like understand like you can't completely, like stay away from media, but you got to like be, I guess, understanding of like what they're doing and what they're using and how can you use that tool. Because if you think about it, the most influential thing in young people's lives right now, if they have one, is a cell phone. And it's kind of scary, especially if there's no parameters around how they use it. That is speaking to them constantly. It's influencing them constantly. It's like changing how they think, what they do. They're imitating it. So it is a powerful, powerful tool that, I didn't have that strong of an influence through media when I was at a young age. And I thank God that I didn't, because like you really do need wisdom and guidance in navigating that. But today, you have young people like that is one of the most influential things is in the palm of their hand. So I was like, how can I use that? Because at the end of the day, like there's enough darkness in the world. So that's like, it's outshine the darkness. So I need to make sure that I step out of my comfort zone, even though I don't like being on social media a lot. I don't like posting a lot of videos. Like I need to make sure that I'm not limiting God and how he can use the organization or how he can use me. So I definitely like tried my best to like get on social media, to get the apps, and like just make sure that there was some type of presence of what I was doing so that somebody could see it and they could be influenced by it.
Yes.
My goal is to get young people like back involved like in their community, like is to help people realize like that they are beneficial to their community, that God's not finished with them. So for me, I want to create youth programs that are going to like inspire young people, that are going to just like meet the needs of like wherever they're at, to help families, to help people who are facing crisis, to help people that are maybe going through like trauma. I went through a trauma myself during the pandemic, and so that's something that I'm navigating, grief and healing and all that stuff. So for youth, I want to be able to like create a safe place to where whatever it is that they need, whether it's like emotional healing, spiritual healing, if they need, to just be able to be in their home and feel safe and know how to like dream and not just conform to this world. Like I want to create programs that are going to just help inspire kids and help move them, and not just kids, but also like young people too. Like as I'm getting older, I'm realizing like, okay, like there's no limits, I can, there's anyone that you can reach, doesn't matter what your age is. So I just hope to be involved in my community and be able to like just create programs that are really going to be like eye-opening and life-changing, and like moving forward, having more of a presence even on social media too, because that is also where a lot of kids are learning and being influenced by. So that definitely is the goal moving forward.
Amazing. No, it's really, really good.
For those who want to support Outshine the Darkness, you can find it on Instagram and Facebook. It's just Outshine the Darkness. And then Steerlight Productions, it's just one word, Steerlight Productions. And we're just going to be creating positive things, inspirational things. That's on Instagram and Facebook as well. If you want to keep in touch with me, it's just Airian Renay across all platforms. And just support, pray, that's also a huge support right there. And just basically, keep me in prayer and just believe that, God's going to do some great things, it's coming up year and beyond. So.